We often wait. We wait for the right moment, the perfect mood, the ideal conditions. We tell ourselves we'll begin when we're more prepared, when we have more time, more money, more clarity. But the truth is stark and simple. The perfect time doesn't exist. It's a comforting illusion. The idea that one day, everything will align and make the first step feel easy. But life rarely offers such clarity. Most meaningful journeys begin in uncertainty, not certainty. They begin in imperfection, not perfection. Waiting can feel safe. It gives us an excuse to delay action while maintaining the illusion of progress. But in reality, waiting is often fear in disguise. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough. And so we sit idle, polishing plans and dreaming big, all while time moves on. Start now, not next week, not when you feel ready. Start with what you have. Start with what you know. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to take the first step. Progress is built on action, not intention. Confidence is built through doing, not thinking. Growth comes from effort, from stumbling, from learning. Every expert was once a beginner. Every masterpiece started as a rough draft. We all have things we say we want to do. Goals we've been thinking about for years. Dreams that sit quietly in the back of our minds. Ideas that come to life in moments of inspiration, but are quickly tucked away with the excuse, it's just not the right time yet. We say we'll begin when we're more prepared, when we've got everything figured out, when we feel ready. But deep down, we know what's really going on. We're not waiting for the right time, we're waiting for the perfect one. And the harsh truth is, the perfect time doesn't exist. Perfection is a seductive lie. It makes us feel responsible, like we're being cautious or smart by waiting. We convince ourselves that if we just had a bit more information, a bit more time, or a slightly better situation, we'd be able to start and succeed. But more often than not, perfection is just fear wearing a mask. It's fear of failing, fear of being judged, fear of doing something wrong or doing it badly. So instead of taking action, we stay in planning mode. We keep tweaking the idea. We keep organizing, researching, watching videos, reading books, all in the name of preparation, when in reality it's just avoidance. The problem is, while we wait for things to be perfect, life moves on. Time passes, opportunities fade. And that dream, that goal, that thing we once felt so passionate about, slowly drifts further away. Not because it wasn't possible, but because we never gave it a real chance. We were too busy trying to perfect the starting conditions instead of just starting. This is what perfection does. It paralyzes us. It keeps us stuck. It makes the first step feel too big to take, and the longer we delay, the heavier it becomes. What started as a simple idea now feels like a giant task, because we've convinced ourselves it needs to be flawless. But here's what we forget: nobody starts out perfect. Nobody creates a masterpiece on the first try. Every successful person you admire, every author, artist, athlete, entrepreneur, they all began in the same place, uncertain, unpolished, unready. The difference is, they didn't let that stop them. When you act, even imperfectly, you gain something valuable: momentum. You start learning, you start adjusting, you get feedback, you grow. And that growth, it doesn't come from thinking about the thing. It comes from doing it. Real progress doesn't come from waiting. It comes from moving forward, stumbling a little, then figuring it out along the way. It's important to understand that taking imperfect action doesn't mean you're careless. It means you're courageous. It means you're willing to show up as you are, not as the polished, future version of yourself you keep envisioning. That future version only exists if you start doing the work today as your current self. Waiting until you're ready is like waiting to be fit before going to the gym. It doesn't make sense. You get ready by starting. You build skill by practicing. You gain clarity by doing. Some people spend their entire lives preparing, always planning, always thinking, always talking, but never doing. And while their intentions might be good, intentions don't create results. Action does. You can plan all you want, but until you take that first imperfect step, nothing changes. Life rewards action, not hesitation. Even if what you create or try isn't perfect, maybe it's a rough first draft, a shaky start, a beginner's effort, it's still something real. Something you can improve. Something that moves you forward. But if you're always waiting for perfect, You'll have nothing to show for all your time and energy except regret. It's also worth mentioning that most of the pressure to be perfect doesn't come from the world. It comes from within. We're often harder on ourselves than anyone else ever would be. We imagine judgment, critique, and embarrassment, but more often than not, the world is too busy living its own messy life to pay that much attention to ours. And if someone does criticize you for starting messy or imperfectly, that's a reflection of them, not of you. Most people respect effort more than perfection, so start now. Start before you're ready. Start when it feels uncomfortable. Start with the tools you have, the knowledge you know, and the time that's available. Start when it's inconvenient. Start when it's scary. Just start, because the longer you wait, the more you reinforce the belief that you can't, or shouldn't, begin yet. And every time you delay, you miss a moment that could have changed your life. Done is always better than perfect. A small, imperfect step today is more powerful than the flawless step you never take. Don't let perfection become the graveyard of your potential. Let action be the standard, even messy, uncertain, shaky action. Because progress isn't about perfection. It's about showing up again and again and doing the work. You don't need perfect to make something powerful. You just need to begin. Everyone has good intentions. We all have things we want to do, goals we think about, dreams we quietly nurture. We talk about starting a business, getting in shape, learning a skill, changing careers, writing that book, making a difference. The desire is real. The intention is sincere. And yet, so many of these ambitions never move beyond that, a thought, a wish, an idea we carry around but never act on. Why? Because intentions alone are not enough. They might feel powerful, but they don't create results. They don't change lives. What changes things is action. What moves the needle is doing. And the gap between what we say we want and what we actually get often comes down to one simple truth: most people stop at intention. They don't follow through. They stay in the comfort of planning, dreaming, or talking, and never shift into action. There's a kind of temporary satisfaction that comes from setting intentions. It gives us a small hit of motivation. It makes us feel like we've done something, even though in reality, nothing has changed. We love that feeling of a fresh start or a new idea. We get excited about possibilities. We write to-do lists, map out goals, or create vision boards. But unless those intentions are backed by action, they're just mental exercises. They make us feel productive without requiring us to face discomfort. The truth is, action is often far less glamorous than intention. It's messy. It's repetitive. It's full of setbacks. It doesn't feel like a big inspirational moment. It feels like showing up when you don't want to. It feels like pushing through uncertainty, working when you're tired, doing the boring parts, making mistakes, and learning as you go. But this is where the real growth happens. This is where transformation begins. Not in the intention to change, but in the effort to do it. You don't become a writer by intending to write. You become a writer by sitting down, even when the words don't flow, and putting something, anything, on the page. You don't get fit by buying new gym clothes or watching workout videos. You get fit by showing up, sweating, failing, adjusting, and doing it again. You don't build a business by reading articles or imagining success. You build it by taking the first step, creating, offering, launching, learning. Intentions don't require commitment. Action does. And commitment is what separates the people who talk from the people who build. Everyone says they want more out of life. More freedom, more creativity, more impact. But not everyone is willing to show up consistently when the work is hard or slow or uncertain. It's easy to stay stuck in your head, refining ideas or waiting for the perfect moment. It's harder to take action when it might not go perfectly. But that's the price of progress. Here's the thing. Action doesn't guarantee success, but inaction guarantees failure. If you act, you at least give yourself a chance. You create momentum. You gain clarity. You discover what works and what doesn't. You learn more in a single day of doing than in weeks of thinking. Because real learning comes from experience, not from theories or plans. Even failure teaches more than perfect intentions ever could. We often overestimate how much we need to do to get started. We think action has to be big or dramatic to count, but small steps matter. Making a call, sending the email, showing up for day one, trying one version, writing one page, recording the first video. Small actions taken consistently are what build the habits and systems that lead to real change. The secret isn't in massive leaps, it's in the willingness to move, even just a little every day. Of course, action feels risky. It means putting yourself out there. It means exposing your work to criticism, your ideas to rejection, your efforts to failure. That's why it's tempting to stay stuck in the comfort of intention, where everything is still possible and nothing has gone wrong yet. But that safety comes at a cost. While you wait, others are building. While you hesitate, time keeps moving. While you plan endlessly, someone else with less talent and more courage is taking the shot and winning. The world doesn't reward what you intend to do. It rewards what you actually do. It doesn't see your plans. It sees your outcomes. And those outcomes only happen when action is taken. Execution is what separates wishful thinking from real achievement. Discipline beats inspiration. Showing up beats dreaming. Effort beats potential. So if you've been stuck, waiting for clarity, waiting for confidence, waiting for the right time, stop waiting. Start moving. Do something small. Take a first step. Don't aim for perfect. Aim for done. Aim for momentum. Because the longer you stay in the world of intention, the harder it gets to leave it. But once you begin acting, the process gets easier. The fear gets quieter. The resistance gets weaker. You become someone who follows through. At the end of the day, the only thing that separates where you are from where you want to be is the actions you take. Not the intentions you have. Not the potential you possess. Just the steps, no matter how small, that you're willing to take today. So take them. There's a powerful myth that keeps more people stuck than any lack of talent, money, time, or opportunity ever could. It's the belief that you have to be ready before you start. That somehow, readiness is a feeling that arrives like a green light, a moment when everything finally lines up and the fear disappears. But if you've ever waited for that moment, you know how rarely it comes. Because most of the time, you don't feel ready. And the truth is, you don't need to be. You don't need to be fully prepared. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to know every step in advance. What you need is to be willing. Willing to begin without certainty. Willing to try before you have confidence. Willing to move forward even when doubt is still whispering in your ear. Readiness is not a requirement for success. Willingness is. Waiting until you're ready is comfortable. It gives you time to think, plan, imagine. But thinking isn't doing. Planning isn't progress. And imagining won't bring results. All it does is give fear more time to grow. The longer you wait, the louder the voice in your head becomes. The one that says you're not good enough, smart enough, skilled enough, young enough, old enough, whatever the story may be. But that voice doesn't go away with time. It goes away with action. And you don't need to feel ready to take that first step. In fact, most people who've achieved something meaningful started before they were ready. They began with doubt. They started unsure. They took the leap with shaky legs and a racing heart. They didn't have certainty. They had commitment. They didn't have guarantees. They had grit. They were willing to be seen as beginners. Willing to fail. Willing to figure it out as they went. That's what set them apart. Not their preparation, but their permission. The permission they gave themselves to start messy and grow through the process. There's a strange misconception that people who succeed somehow knew what they were doing from the start. But that's rarely the case. They learned by doing. They learned on the job. They gained clarity by taking action, not before it. Confidence, too, doesn't come first. Confidence is earned. It's the result of showing up, putting in the reps, doing it badly, getting better, and realizing you're more capable than you thought. But to get there, you have to be willing to act while you're still unsure. Being willing doesn't mean you throw caution to the wind. It doesn't mean you act recklessly. It means you accept that the beginning will be imperfect, and you show up anyway. It means you acknowledge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And you step into it, not away from it. It means you trade the illusion of control for the reality of momentum, because forward movement is what creates progress, not endless preparation. We often look at successful people and think, they must have known what they were doing. But the truth is, Most of them didn't. They were just willing to go before they had all the answers. They were willing to take the first step without seeing the whole path. Willing to be uncomfortable. Willing to be a beginner. And because of that, they gained experience that someone who's still getting ready will never have. Think of how many opportunities are missed, not because people lack the ability, but because they waited to feel ready. Think of how many stories are unwritten, businesses unstarted, goals unchased, all because someone said, "I'm not ready yet." And the tragedy is, they might have been just one action away from building something incredible. But they waited. And sometimes, they waited too long. You don't have to be fearless to start. You just have to be more committed to the outcome than you are to your comfort. The fear will be there. The doubt will come along for the ride. But neither has to drive. What matters is that you begin anyway. You keep going. You stay open. And you allow yourself to learn what you need to know along the way. Willingness means accepting that you'll make mistakes, and not letting those mistakes stop you. It means understanding that failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Every setback teaches you something. Every attempt strengthens your resolve. Every small win builds momentum, and over time that willingness compounds into skill, confidence, and clarity. So no, you don't need to be ready. That's the lie that keeps people stuck in hesitation. That's the story your fear wants you to believe. But you're not here to be perfect. You're here to grow. And growth only happens through motion. Through showing up before you feel like you belong. Through daring to start before you feel qualified. Through being willing to look foolish before you look brilliant. At some point, you have to decide that waiting is no longer serving you. That the version of you who acts is braver than the version of you who prepares forever. That you'd rather move and learn than stand still and wonder. Start now. Not when you feel ready, but because you're willing. Willing to try. Willing to fail. Willing to begin. Because that's what changes everything. We live in a world obsessed with polished outcomes. We admire the successful, the accomplished, the confident. Those who seem to have everything figured out. We watch the highlight reels, read the headlines, and celebrate the finished product. But what we often don't see, or forget to appreciate, are the messy beginnings that came before all of it. The rough drafts, the awkward starts, the failed attempts, the quiet struggles. The truth is simple, but easy to overlook. Growth lives in imperfect beginnings. Nothing truly meaningful ever starts out perfect. Not a career, not a business, not a relationship, not a skill. Not even a version of yourself. Everything great has a starting point, and that starting point is almost always uncertain, clumsy, uncomfortable. Yet it's in those raw, early moments that the seeds of transformation are planted. That's where growth begins, not in perfection, but in the willingness to start when things are still unclear. Perfection isn't the path to growth, it's the obstacle. If you're waiting for things to feel polished before you begin, you'll be stuck forever. You learn by doing. You evolve through action. No amount of planning, theorizing, or fantasizing will give you what real-world experience can. That first version of whatever you're trying to build, your first piece of writing, your first design, your first attempt at public speaking, your first workout, your first product, your first anything, it will likely be rough. It might even be bad. That's okay. That's normal. That's human. What matters more than how good it is at first is that you actually begin, that you get into motion, that you take the idea out of your head and put it into the world, however imperfectly, because once you do, you're no longer guessing, you're learning. You're no longer just dreaming, you're building. And every time you show up and try again, you're improving. Your skills get sharper, your confidence grows, your direction becomes clearer. But none of that happens unless you're willing to wade through the uncomfortable first version. And that discomfort, that self-doubt, that fear of looking foolish or failing, that's the cost of growth, not a punishment, but part of the process. Every person who's become great at anything has walked through the same fire. They've all had to face the voice in their head that says, "This isn't good enough," or "You're not ready," or "Who do you think you are?" They didn't grow by avoiding imperfection. They grew by moving through it. There's something powerful about allowing yourself to be a beginner. to be new, to not know everything. It takes humility, but it also takes strength. And ironically, it's in that vulnerable space, where you don't have it all figured out, that some of your most significant development takes place. Because when you're not focused on appearing perfect, you're more focused on learning. When you stop trying to control how you're seen, you become more present with the work itself. And that presence leads to progress. Too many people never give themselves permission to be bad at something, and so they never get good at it. They wait to be great before they start, which is backwards. You have to be willing to be bad at something before you can become good at it. You have to be willing to make mistakes before you master the skill. That awkward first step, that's the beginning of excellence. That uncomfortable first attempt, that's what greatness looks like before it's recognizable. We don't outgrow imperfection. We just get better at embracing it. Every new level in life requires starting over in some way. Every new challenge brings with it a new learning curve. And the people who continue to grow, personally, professionally, creatively, are the ones who don't fear being beginners again. They don't let ego or fear stop them from stepping into the next unknown. They stay open. They stay willing. They stay teachable. Your job isn't to avoid imperfection. Your job is to move through it. To trust that even your clumsiest beginning holds value. To believe that even when something doesn't look like much on the outside, it's laying the foundation for something powerful on the inside. Growth is often invisible at first, but it's happening in your discipline, in your resilience, in your mindset. Every time you push through the resistance and do the thing anyway, you're becoming more than you were yesterday. So don't be discouraged if your first try doesn't look the way you hoped. Don't let the need for it to be right stop you from taking action. What you're doing now, starting, stumbling, learning, that's where growth lives. That's where transformation is born. Let yourself be a work in progress. Let the beginning be messy. Let it be real, because the greatest achievements often have the humblest beginnings. The masterpiece starts as a blank canvas. The marathon begins with one step. The life you dream of starts with a decision, not to wait for perfect, but to embrace the imperfect start and grow through it. It's easy to convince ourselves that starting something new is a decision we can postpone. Tomorrow feels safer. Next week seems better. When the timing is right, or when life slows down. When we're less busy or less tired. When we've saved more money or learned more skills. We often fall into the trap of believing that there is a perfect moment waiting for us somewhere in the future. A moment when everything will align perfectly, and starting will be easy. But here's the reality: that perfect moment doesn't exist. The only time to start is now. The idea that we must wait for the right conditions is a story we tell ourselves to delay action. It's a way to protect ourselves from discomfort, uncertainty, and risk. Because starting something new almost always means stepping into the unknown. It means being vulnerable. It means risking failure, embarrassment, or disappointment. And that can be scary. So instead we wait, we prepare endlessly. We make lists, research, and plan. And yet the world doesn't pause for us to feel ready. Life moves forward regardless, waiting for the perfect. Time is a trap that keeps dreams out of reach. It's an illusion that prevents progress. The perfect time is a moving target. It shifts as your circumstances change, as your fears evolve, and as your expectations grow. If you wait for it, you might wait forever. Starting now doesn't mean everything has to be ideal. It means taking the first step with what you have, where you are, and how you feel. It means embracing imperfection and moving forward anyway. Every moment you wait is a moment you could use to learn, grow, and improve. The sooner you begin, the sooner you discover what works and what doesn't. You gain experience that no amount of planning can provide. The process of starting, failing, adjusting, and trying again is the fastest way to progress. It's the difference between living your dreams and watching them pass by. History is full of examples of people who started before they were ready. They didn't wait for the perfect conditions. They created success through action. They moved when others hesitated. They embraced the unknown and trusted that clarity and skill would come with experience. The truth is, readiness comes from doing. Confidence grows through practice. The more you engage with your goal, the more prepared you become. Starting now also means freeing yourself from the burden of regret. Imagine looking back years from today, realizing you spent your best time waiting instead of doing. Regret is often born from inaction, from the things we didn't try rather than the things we did. Starting now is a way to protect yourself from that pain. It's a commitment to your future self that you'll give your dreams a chance. Of course, starting now doesn't guarantee immediate success. You might face obstacles. You might fail. But these are not reasons to wait. They are reasons to start. Failure is part of the journey. It teaches you lessons no success can. It builds resilience and character. It helps you refine your approach. Without starting, you'll never know what you're capable of. The idea that you must wait for everything to be perfect before beginning is just fear dressed up as caution. It's a way to avoid discomfort. But growth never happens in comfort zones. It happens when you challenge yourself, when you take risks, when you embrace uncertainty. Starting now means choosing growth over safety, action over hesitation. Even if your start is small, imperfect, or uncertain, it matters. Small beginnings build momentum. They create habits. They move you closer to your goals. Each step forward, no matter how tiny, is progress. When you start now, you build a foundation that grows stronger with every action you take. So what's holding you back? What story are you telling yourself about why now isn't the right time? Challenge that story. Recognize it for what it is, fear talking, and decide that today is the day you act despite it. Take the first step, however small. Make the call, write the paragraph, send the email, open the notebook. Start now. Remember, there is no perfect moment in the future. The only moment that matters is this one. The only time to start is now, because waiting won't bring your dreams closer. Action will.